down here, the bottom left-hand corner of the map, ESC Cloud Kingdom, we have our yellow Terran player from the team FX Open Esports. It is TheBest. And his opponent in the upper right-hand corner, our red Zerg player from Team SCV Life, it is RagnaroK, winner of game number 1. This is Cloud Kingdom. We said this wasn't too surprising for a Terran player. There's a couple of reasons for that. If you decide to play the long macro game, you have this little space here in between your natural and your third. A siege tank right about here watches both those paths extremely well. It's very, very easy to secure bases here. There's also a ton of cliff line if you want to open up with a Reaper expand like we see out of so many Terran players recently. On top of that, this map is really great for dropping as well because the mains are so big. You can really access a lot of different parts of it.
Yeah,
so
the thing I noticed about this map in TVZ is it's also really easy for Terran to push Zerg. If they put their army here and they can do that drop onto the high ground up here too, they have to run so far around to try to get any kind of coverage on the tanks on the low ground. It can be a really, really hard position when you have Marines landed up there in the main and you have tanks and some Marines down there between the natural and the third, and when Zerg basically has to take 3 bases in this matchup, it becomes really an issue if they can get into that sweet spot on this map. It's even better than the Tal'Darim sweet spot.
Well, there you have it. Even better than the Tal'Darim sweet spot. It is really good, though. Let's be honest. I mean, because like you mentioned, the amount of distance you have to cover to try and break them. Now, let's not take away from Zerg on this map, though. There are things that they can do. Zerg, when you talk about matchups that aren't favored for them, you usually talk about PvZ on this map. Protons are something like a 65-70% win percentage against Zergs on this one. A little bit more even against Terran players, and there are things that they can do. We talked about there's a lot of cliff lines here. You see in the middle of the map a lot of up and down spots. That's also true around leading into the bases. It's kind of a 3-tiered map leading down to the middle. So Broodlord positioning can be extremely effective when you move into that late game.
The other great thing for players like Violet that like Ling run bys, there's almost no way to stop them on this map because there's so many different ways to get into the third. The same way that Terran can get into that nice sweet spot against Zerg, Zerg can do run bys into the natural, into the third. Whenever Terran try to push out into the middle portion of the map, you can run around them in so many different ways to either try to get into that economy line or to try to cut up that production mid to the late game. It's very, very effective on this map.
Absolutely true. And once again, out of RagnaroK, it looks like he's going to start with that 4-queen build. No gas quite yet. That's very good on this map because there's so many little choke points. Even though there's even ground paths from the third over to the natural, even though there's huge openings over here, they still are contained choke points that can be covered by creep tumors. So it is very, very possible, for that 4-queen build to really take advantage of this map. We even saw in GSL, I believe it was. No, it was at MLG. In the Kespa Invitational, where I believe it was Jadong was able to complete... No, Sulky was able to shut down a base. I'm screwing up everything. Sulky was able to shut down Flash's 4th base just by pure creep spread. At the, I think it was the 12-minute mark, there was already creep sitting underneath his 4th.
Yeah, with that 4-queen build, you get the creep out so far across the map very quickly. It looks like FXO.TheBest is doing a very, very similar build to what Gumio was doing in the first game, going for the quick fan, going for the quick factory. We'll see if he decides to go for double factory, if he's just going to do the standard Hellion opening.
That's right. So RagnaroK, though, actually throwing me a little bit for a loop. He's a little bit later on these other queens, but yet he hasn't gotten gas, prioritizing out a macro hatch and said, there's finally queens number 3 and 4. But this was kind of a clever way to do it, actually getting that macro hatch before the 4 queens were finished in a, 4-queen build.
Wow, nice Overlord snipe down there. Yeah, I guess RagnaroK's thinking here is I'm just going to try to get more larva quicker, I guess, and you'll get the creep spread. If you have the extra hatchery and you have 4 queens, you can obviously inject 3 hatcheries at once. So getting that extra hatchery fast actually is pretty beneficial when you're just trading off a little bit of the speed on the queens.
And it is once again 3 gas for him, so it's the exact same amount of gas he took last go around. We may even see that defensive Roach Warren, a couple of evolution chambers coming up here in just a bit. The evolution chambers maybe when he decides to move out and take his 3rd, but still, this is looking pretty familiar to anyone who watched the last game.
Yeah, and I'm going to try. I'm curious how Terrans in the future and how TheBest now is going to try to deal with the 4-queen opening. It looks like he's decided Banshees. I don't really agree with that against 4 queens, cloak or no cloak. It's not very effective when so many Zergs go early evolution chamber, and it's so easy to put a spore, but you don't even need a spore if you don't have cloak. When you have 4 queens, it's so easy to hold off Hellions. He's going to have to do something tricky with the Hellion micro and positioning with his Banshees to try to get the queens out of position to get some worker kills, because otherwise that Banshee is not going to do a whole lot.
All right, well, we'll see if, Ragnarok's already in pretty good position to deal with that. Spycrawler up, he's going to start walling this off. Once again, we saw beautiful building positioning out of Ragnarok in the last game to minimize the damage he would take from backstabs, run-bys, things like that, and he's once again doing the same thing, except he pulled a few drones off the line. I think that was a bad rally right there. Oh, God.
He's going to have to be careful when there's Hellion. Okay, he finally does move them. With Hellions on the field, you don't want these drones out there vulnerable like that.
Oh, no, and now he didn't set him to the mineral patch. He set him right next to him.
That's a pretty big mistake, because you're just making drones, and you've got... Okay, finally sees it, fixes that, but that can really hurt you if you don't notice that quickly.
And he's going to put up spore crawlers now, because it looks like he is, or he was able to pick up on the Banshee, so anything coming up inside of the main, it is going to be done in about 15 seconds. Should be about 5 seconds to complete by the time this Banshee actually shows up.
I would like to see the best cancel that second Banshee as soon as he sees that spore crawler, because he should know it's not going to be worth it just to get 2 workers killed by making these Banshees that really don't do anything against Zerg after this part of the game.
Now, a lot of people like to say, oh, you forced your opponent to make so many spore crawlers, maybe you overmake them. But the thing is that you went down a tech path that was very costly yourself. You've delayed anything that would be coming out of the starport that would conventionally support your army in the form of medevacs or in the form of Vikings.
And he does decide, just to cancel the Banshees, because you've now gone Banshees, you've gassed that you could have used for medevacs, you could have used, he's going mech, he could have used to try to get Thors faster.
That's right.
So it's not really that wise a decision when... I don't like the second Banshee. The first Banshee's okay, but as soon as you do the spore, there's no point in making others, because you're not going to do any damage anyway.
That's right. You want to minimize those losses, but good for DPS, but not in the army that's being made now. And as we can see, out of the best, he's not gone for a third command center. So a marked difference from what we saw last go around with Gumiho. He decides to go after the much more standard approach, just sitting off of 2 bases.
This is actually really smart by the best. He's actually forced the queens out of position, and now he's actually going to have some pretty free reign with the Hellion. See if he can force a cancel on this hatchery. Yes, he does. So that actually worked out. Very good positioning by going to the third with the Banshee and forcing the queens out of position so they couldn't react to the Hellions fast enough.
That's absolutely right. And now RagnaroK is just going to sit on this normal third hatchery, continuing to spam down creep tumors everywhere, all the creep tumors. And he does have a Spire Barry to finish up as well. Is he banking many resources? He'll have enough gas if he doesn't build any more roaches or upgrades for about 6 or 7 mutas.
I don't really think he's going to like the fact that he's seeing mech on Cloud Kingdom against Mutalisk, and he doesn't have an infestation pit yet, so it's not actually going to be a fast hive transition once he sees the fact that, like Gumiho, the best is deciding to go for mech.
And one of the Hellions does get picked off. Well, look at this out of the best. Now, we've seen supply depot walls. This is a double-wide supply depot wall. That's so cool. I mean, it absorbs so many more hits, and it's just as easy for you to drop and lower, lower and raise supply depots to allow maneuverability. What a cool decision. So, Viking looks like it has snagged 1 rogue overlord. Otherwise, supplies favoring our Terran player at the moment as the first mutas are now hitting the field.
Oh, and it looked like, okay, the best actually goes for a Raven again. This must be something that's going on in the FXO training house where they like this build with the Raven. Raven does actually shut down every single Zerg ranged attack, so that actually makes a pretty significant difference in combat, and I really, really love it. I think Ravens are the most underused unit in all of StarCraft. They're really good. Everything they do, especially against Zerg with point defense drone, it does a ton of different stuff. You've actually stolen the words out of my mouth. When we started talking about Ravens, I was like, more people need to start using them on a regular basis, and scouting drone immediately gets fried, but it's nice to see their inclusion. We didn't get to see the full effect of it in the last game because the Broodlords were already in place, and the Raven was fungled out pretty quickly, but that being said, the Ravens already sitting on decent energy, going to have enough for a point defense drone here in just a bit. And of course, those Ravens are already up. I hope that people will start using Hunter-Seeker Missile a little bit more in play. Yeah, now that Ragnarok has seen his mech again, he's going to stop making Mutalisk, as you say. He switched to Roaches already, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got an Infestation Pit to try to go up to Hive Tech, because the Mutas are not going to do anything anymore. You really just have to hard switch off of them once you see that many Thors. He did get his opponent to make an Engineering Bay, and may force him to make a couple...
Whoa! Okay.
All of the SCVs.
A few SCVs being pulled off the line to repair up this army. This is certainly a more powerful attack out of the best than we saw out of Gumiho last go-around, but Gumiho was much better prepared for a follow-up in case it went down. He was able to survive until his Brood Lords were in place.
That was a lot of Hellions.
That's right, but the best, I mean, this is going to be very difficult to follow up on. He's killing a lot of workers, though. Many units being pulled into this siege line. The tanks are sieging up now, and the Roach is taking quite a bit of damage. The Hellions are doing their job, though, and buffering out most of the damage from the Roaches as they snipe a bunch of those
I do not
as well.
agree with what Ragnarok just did. He just dropped a Hydra Den from the looks of it, and that would not do anything against this attack. He's going to need a lot of Roaches, or he's going to be dead in a second.
Well, he is producing nothing but Roaches afterwards, so and it looks like this Hydra Den may just go down before it's able to be used for anything, as a matter of fact, as Ragnarok is taking so much damage now.
All these drones are going to go down. Ragnarok's economy is going to be in shambles. He'll be down to 2 bases worth of economy, and he does not have enough to hold this off right now.
And it looks like he's going to drop some Roaches right on top, but there's enough non-siege tank units here. This shouldn't do the most in the world. Point defense drone gets dropped right in the middle of this as well, but nothing around, unfortunately, to absorb shots from it. No mutas or Hydras or Queens.
Oh, he actually managed to clean up all of those tanks, so maybe Ragnarok will be able to hold this off if he can get these Thors down somehow. But now, the Banshees are actually doing good damage. He's out of Queens. He doesn't have any anti-air anymore.
That's right, and there it is, GG! So FXO has tied things up, the best taking a game back for his team.